They told me I didn't deserve a penny and left the house to my sister. Now they've lost everything, and I'm the one they came crawling to. I never thought I'd be the type to air my family's dirty laundry on the internet. But here I am, sitting in my workshop at nearly 2 a.m., sipping cold coffee and listening to the same voicemail for the third time in a row. Not because I'm debating what to do, but because I want to remember exactly how my mother sounded when the house of cards they built around my sister finally collapsed. For context, my name's Brandon. I'm 27. I run a small construction company, renovations, custom kitchens, decks, that kind of stuff. I didn't take the college route. Dropped out in my sophomore year, not because I couldn't handle the classes, but because I realized I could learn more and earn faster in the trades. Got in with a fantastic old-school builder, worked my way up, and eventually branched out on my own. I've got 4 full-time employees now and a decent client list. I'm proud of what I've built. But my parents, they've never seen it that way. To them, success looks like a corner office and a framed diploma, preferably with ivy crawling up the university walls. That's why my sister, Lauren, has always been the star. She's 30 now. She got the best of everything growing up. Private school, study abroad, internships lined up like dominoes. Now she works at some fancy firm downtown managing wealth portfolios. She wears $1,000 shoes and posts motivational quotes under selfies in rented Bentleys. If she ever slipped up, it was brushed off as character building. If I showed up 5 minutes late to Thanksgiving dinner, I'd get a lecture about discipline. So when my mom texted me last week to come by for dinner, we need to discuss family matters, I should have seen it coming. But I guess part of me still hoped for something different. A little recognition, maybe. A nod. Something. I pulled into their driveway around 6. Lauren's white Lexus was already parked, gleaming like it had never seen a raindrop. I climbed out of my dusty work truck in the same jeans and flannel I'd worn on site that day. Walked in. The air was thick with tension before I even shut the door behind me. Lauren was already at the dining table, sipping wine and scrolling through her phone like she owned the place. My mom gave me that tight-lipped smile she uses when she's trying to be polite but also wants to fix everything about me. My dad? He was already wearing his "we're having a serious conversation" expression, the one he used back when I told him I was quitting school. Dinner was meatloaf. We all poked at it in silence, except Lauren, who kept making snide little comments about sawdust chic and how my truck smelled like old wood glue. I smiled, didn't say much, let her have her moment, and then my dad cleared his throat. "We've been giving some thought to the future," he said, staring at his plate like it was a boardroom agenda. "About the family legacy. About responsibility." I knew where this was headed. I didn't even flinch. Mom chimed in. "Lauren's been so steady. She's made smart decisions. She understands finances, assets, the real world." I think she expected me to argue. I didn't. I just kept chewing. Then Dad dropped the hammer. "We've updated the will. The house, the savings, the accounts. It's all going to Lauren." I set my fork down gently, not out of shock, out of habit, like I just heard an old song on the radio and recognized the chorus. Lauren looked positively radiant. She actually raised her glass. "It's for the best, Brandon. We all know you're more of a hands-on guy. Not really the type for long-term asset management." She said it like I was a Labrador that had accidentally wandered into a library. I turned to my father. "So what about me?" He snorted. "What about you? You dropped out. You've got no degree. You build decks for a living, for God's sake." Then he waved his hand like he was dismissing an intern. "You're not part of the long-term picture here." Silence. Lauren's smirk grew by an inch. And the weird thing? I didn't feel broken. Not like I would have 5 years ago. Or even 3. Back then, I'd have gone back to my apartment and sat in the dark wondering if they were right. But not now. Not after everything I've accomplished on my own terms. I looked down at my hands. Scarred, calloused, solid. And then at Lauren's polished nails tapping her wine glass. And something inside me clicked. I stood up. The chair made that sharp scrape across the hardwood that always made my mom flinch. "Okay," I said. My mom looked surprised. "That's all you have to say?" "Yeah," I said. Okay, you want her to have everything? Fine. But don't forget this moment. I looked at each of them, one by one. Don't forget you made this choice. Lauren laughed. Oh, come on. Are you gonna go cry in your truck now? I picked up my keys. No, Lauren. I'm going to show you just how worthless I really am. My dad started yelling about respect. My mom started crying about family bonds. Lauren muttered something about jealousy. I didn't say another word. I walked out, got in my truck, and drove off. Before I even hit the highway, I blocked all their numbers. That was 3 months ago. Since then, silence on my end anyway. On theirs? Not so much. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree for weeks. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even old neighbors I hadn't spoken to in years. All of them preaching about family and forgiveness and how blood is thicker than pride. Funny how none of them had much to say when I was being told I wasn't good enough. I ignored every single message. Then 2 nights ago, I got a voicemail from my mother. Her voice was trembling. Brandon, please. I know you're angry, but we're in real trouble. We made a mistake. We see that now. Please just call me. I didn't call her. I saved the message. Not because I planned to respond, but because I want to remember exactly what they sound like when the weight of their choices finally lands. It had been a quiet few months since I walked out of my parents' house. Quiet, at least, from my end. My phone, though, it never stopped buzzing. Texts from aunts I hadn't spoken to in years. Cousins trying to play peacemaker. Even some of my parents' friends, people who wouldn't have given me the time of day before, were suddenly messaging me like they knew me. All of them repeating some variation of the same theme. Family's all you've got. They didn't mean it. You should call them. They're still your parents. It was like no one had actually heard what they said that night. No one seemed to remember the words, "You're not part of this family's future." That line replayed in my head more times than I can count. And every time someone asked me to be the bigger person, it just echoed louder. So I ignored them all. Blocked most of them. Focused on my business. Focused on rebuilding my own peace. Until last week. It was a Tuesday. I was sitting in my truck outside a worksite, sipping gas station coffee and reviewing blueprints. My crew was unloading tools when my phone buzzed again. Voicemail. From my mom. I almost deleted it without listening. Just muscle memory at this point. But something, maybe curiosity, maybe instinct, made me tap play. Ethan, please. Her voice was weak. Broken. Not the polished, commanding tone I'd grown up with. We're in trouble. Serious trouble. Vanessa, she made some mistakes. Big ones. And now the bank, please call me. We need your help. We were wrong. I sat there for a while. Not moving. Not even breathing, I think. Then I saved the message. Not because I planned to reply, but because I wanted to remember exactly how they sounded, how the people who once told me I had no value now spoke like they were drowning. And they were. That same afternoon, I got a wall of text from my dad. Which was weird because my dad isn't the texting type. It was mostly incoherent, angry, desperate, like he didn't know whether to apologize or blame me. The only line that stuck was this: "You've made your point. Now fix it. Fix it." Like it was my job to clean up their mess. I didn't respond. But I started digging. I still had a few connections from my construction days, people in real estate, inspectors, county clerks. It didn't take long. Turns out my parents had refinanced the house. Their house. The fully paid off one. Why? Because Vanessa told them it was an opportunity too good to pass up. She'd apparently launched a new investment firm. Real estate flipping, luxury rentals, Airbnb portfolios, whatever was trending on Instagram. She'd even had an LLC formed, business cards printed, a website built with photos of properties she didn't even own yet. And she'd used the house, our family home, as collateral for a 7-figure loan. You can probably guess how that turned out. The market turned. Her investments tanked. One of her contractors ghosted with half a project budget. Another filed a lawsuit over unpaid work. And a few clients started posting about her on local forums asking if anyone else had been scammed. Now the bank was seizing the house. Vanessa's empire had crumbled faster than it took her to send a condescending text. And my parents? They were about to lose everything. I didn't laugh. I didn't celebrate. But I did feel a certain stillness inside, like the universe was finally rebalancing. Then came the part one didn't expect. Vanessa showed up. She walked into the same diner I'd been visiting for years, the one where I reviewed plans over pancakes, the one with the waitress who knew my order before I sat down. She marched in like she still owned the world, wearing oversized sunglasses and holding a coffee she clearly hadn't paid for herself. She sat across from me like we were friends. You have to help them, Ethan. I didn't say anything. She rolled her eyes. Oh, come on. Don't act like you didn't see the messages. I took a slow sip of my coffee. They're your parents, she said, voice lower now. They're losing the house. I raised an eyebrow. The one they gave to you? She flinched. Just a little. But I caught it. They made a mistake. You think. They were trying to do what they thought was right. I was in. Trustworthy. I cut in. Responsible? The future of the family. She looked down. I didn't mean for this to happen. No, I said. You just meant to play mogul with money that wasn't yours. She got defensive. It was an investment. It was supposed to work. And now? Her lips pressed into a thin line. They're going to be homeless, Ethan. I pulled out my phone. Opened my screenshot folder. One by one, I slid them across the table. Texts from Vanessa. The one where she called me a pathetic handyman. The one where she bragged that mom and dad finally understand who deserves the house. The one where she said I'd probably end up renting a basement for the rest of his life. Her face changed. You kept all of that? Of course I did, I said. Because I knew one day you'd come crawling back. She tried the tears next. The fake kind. The ones she used to get out of speeding tickets and awkward Thanksgiving conversations. I didn't mean it, Ethan. You know I didn't mean it. I leaned in. I know the house is going up for auction in a few weeks. I know exactly what it's worth. I've already talked to the bank. Got the paperwork ready. She froze. What are you talking about? I'm going to buy it. Her eyes widened. You wouldn't. I would. You'd really do that to your own family? I smiled. Not because it was funny, but because the irony was so thick you could carve it. I'm not doing anything to the family, I said. I'm just not saving them. She exploded. Called me every name in the book. Tried to guilt me with stories about our childhood. Brought up our grandparents. Even tried to say she was just trying to build something for all of us. The manager eventually asked her to leave. I finished my coffee, left a tip, and walked out. That night, my doorbell rang. It was my parents. I didn't answer. They rang again. I watched from the security camera as my mom cried and my dad paced the porch like a wolf trying to decide whether to knock or break in. Eventually, I opened the door. Just a crack. Ethan, my mom said. We were wrong. About everything. My dad tried to interrupt. Still too proud to say the words. We raised you to be better than this, he said. I stared at him. You raised me to believe I wasn't enough. That shut him up. Mom reached into her purse and pulled out a photo album. My baby pictures. Kindergarten. Baseball trophies. The stuff you save when you think your kid's going to make you proud someday. She held it out. I didn't take it. Please, she whispered. We're sorry. I looked at them both. I offered to fix your roof last year, I said. You said my work was too rough for your standards. My dad shifted. I offered to repaint the garage. You said I should focus on finding a real job. I stepped outside, holding the door half open behind me. You made your choices. Now I'm making mine. They didn't move. I closed the door. Didn't slam it. Just closed it. The next morning, I submitted my bid paperwork for the foreclosure auction. There was no turning back now. The morning of the auction didn't start with nerves. It started with silence. I was up before my alarm, already dressed before the sun crested the rooftops. I made myself a cup of black coffee and stood at the kitchen window, staring out at the empty street. Everything felt strangely calm. Like the world had finally slowed down enough for me to hear myself think. Emma came downstairs in one of my old sweatshirts, hair still a mess, and wrapped her arms around my waist. You ready? She asked. I nodded. Yeah. More than ever. We didn't say much after that. We didn't need to. She knew what today meant. The county courthouse was buzzing by the time I arrived. Realtors in sharp suits, developers whispering over spreadsheets, flippers looking to score their next quick turnaround. I didn't come in looking for attention. Just clean jeans, a decent flannel, and my work boots. Not to make a statement, just to be myself. The person they said wasn't good enough. And then I saw them. My parents were standing near the back wall of the room, looking like they'd aged 20 years overnight. My mother clutched her purse like it held the last bit of dignity she had left, her eyes darting around nervously. My father stood stiffly, arms crossed, jaw tight. But his eyes, those proud, sharp eyes, looked dull now. Like something had finally cracked inside. Vanessa walked in moments later. She was dressed like she was attending a gala instead of a public foreclosure auction. Hairstyled, makeup flawless, those ridiculous sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. But there was something hollow behind the gloss. The swagger was gone. In its place, desperation wearing a well-fitted dress. She spotted me almost immediately and flinched. I held her gaze for a second, then looked away. She wasn't worth my energy right now. When the auctioneer called the property, my heart thumped once, just once, and then everything inside me went still. The starting bid was announced. I raised my paddle. Vanessa jumped in a second later, voice sharp, confidence forced. She countered. I raised again. She hesitated this time. Whispered something to a man standing beside her. He shook his head. I saw the panic flicker behind her eyes. She tried again, but the number she gave was weak, barely above mine. I responded instantly. Strong. Firm. The auctioneer called for final bids. Silence. Then, sold. Just like that. The house, the one I was told I'd never deserve, was mine. I thought it would be over after the auction. I genuinely believed that once I signed the papers, handed over the deposit, and legally became the owner of the house, they'd retreat into silence. That they'd pack up what was left of their pride, move on, and finally accept what they had done. But people like my family? They don't let go quietly. They scream. They perform. They manipulate until the last breath. It started small, my mom posting vague Bible verses on Facebook. Stuff like, honor thy father and mother, or even the prodigal son returned home. Then came the family group chat texts from aunts I hadn't heard from in years. One message just said, I hope you can live with yourself. I could. I really could. But it wasn't until the video dropped that I realized they were far from done. Emma and I were curled up on the couch watching a documentary when her phone pinged. She glanced down and her eyebrows shot up. Babe, you need to see this. I took her phone and watched in silence. Vanessa had posted an Instagram reel, overproduced and dripping with performative grief. The caption was something like, forgiveness isn't weakness. It's healing. The video opened with slow-motion shots of her crying in front of our old house, her hand brushing the mailbox, gazing up at the windows like it was the Titanic sinking behind her. Then came family photos, her voiceover cracking as she talked about being betrayed by blood and how her brother's revenge destroyed their family. She tagged me. And she created a hashtag forgive Ethan. My jaw clenched. Emma put her hand on my arm before I could even speak. Don't let them drag you back into it. But it was too late. The floodgates opened. People started messaging me. Some from high school, others complete strangers. Comments like, family is everything and wow, how heartless can you be, filled my inbox. Some even posted my business info and said I should be boycotted. One guy DM'd me and said, hope someone does to you what you did to your parents. But the worst part? The next morning they showed up. In person. Again. All three of them, my mom, my dad, and Vanessa, on my front porch, filming. Vanessa had her phone out, obviously hoping for some viral confrontation. My dad wore that grim, fake honorable face he always used when trying to intimidate people. My mom? Already in tears even before I opened the door. At first, I almost didn't. I stood just behind it, watching them through the peephole, debating if it was even worth the energy. But then I remembered something. They expected me to avoid them. They wanted me to feel guilt, shame, doubt. So I opened the door. And I stood there. Arms crossed. Expression blank. Just watching. Vanessa launched into her speech. We came here today to heal. We came because despite everything, we still love you. And we forgive you. I let her talk. I didn't say a word. When she finally stopped, I looked directly into her phone camera and said, you know what's funny, Vanessa? I still have the email. She blinked. What email? The one where you bragged about manipulating mom and dad into refinancing the house. The one where you said, and I quote, they're so desperate for my approval, they'd sign anything if I used enough buzzwords. Her phone dipped slightly. I turned to my parents. And you too? You didn't just sign over your house. You signed on as guarantors for every shady loan she took after that. That's why your credit's trashed. That's why you can't rent a decent apartment. Not because of me. Because you trusted her. My mom's face crumpled. We didn't know. No, I said. You didn't want to know. You didn't listen. You called me worthless and handed everything over to her. So don't stand here crying now like I did something to you. You chose this. Vanessa tried to step forward. You're blowing this out of proportion. Am I? I raised my phone and played the recording. The one from the night they disowned me. Her laughter. My dad's voice calling me a waste. My mom's silence. They went still. You want this to stop? I said quietly. Delete your posts. Delete the hashtag. Stop telling people I destroyed this family. And if I hear another lie about me online or from anyone else, I'll release every single screenshot, message, and voice memo I have. Including your clients' names, Vanessa. The phone disappeared into her purse. They left without another word. A week later, the house was mine in every legal and moral sense. But I realized I didn't want it. I thought I did. I thought I wanted to live in it, to renovate it, to reclaim it. But standing inside the empty living room with the stained carpet and the smell of my childhood memories clinging to the walls like mildew, I felt nothing but exhaustion. I didn't want their ghosts in my new life. So I sold it. To a young couple expecting their first child. They were sweet, grateful, excited about the backyard and the old oak tree and the possibility of love filling the space again. I handed them the keys with no regrets. I took the profit and used it as a down payment on a new house with Emma. One with no baggage. No history. Just fresh paint and sunlight and quiet nights. Vanessa? Last I heard, she was working at a kiosk in a dying mall, selling imported face creams with fake discounts. Her car got repossessed. Her ex sued her for fraud. Her license is suspended pending investigation. My parents? Still in that tiny rental. I heard from a mutual acquaintance they had to pawn some of Mom's jewelry just to cover the deposit. My dad drinks more. My mom posts cryptic Bible quotes on Facebook. I stopped reading them. I should feel bad. I know I should. But I don't. Because every time I look around this life I've built, my business, my crew, my home, my partner, I remember what it took to get here. I remember what it cost. And I remember what they said. You're not part of this family's future. I smile every time I think about that. Because I didn't just become part of the future. I made a new one. One where I didn't need their approval to be worthy. One where I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. And for the first time in my life, I was free.